Each day, people across the country face the uncertainty of where they will sleep at night. Despite this, our system has normalized the idea that shelter is a privilege. Affordable housing isn't just an issue, it's a crisis.
Most people don't make enough money to afford an apartment or a house. And the way that we define that is that you should never spend more than 30% of your monthly income towards rent or your mortgage. People in this country pay 40 or 50 or 60%. And so that means they don't have enough money left over, and that's what keeps people in poverty.
Rents have just been rising year over year, and wages haven't really risen to meet those.
After the pandemic, when there were tremendous protections and resources provided and put in place to help renters stay stably housed and pay the rent, once those protections expired and those resources were depleted, we saw skyrocketing, really historic increases in rents across the country.
In this area, it's a really huge problem. We're more vulnerable because there's a lot of wealthy people in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and those people are able to and willing to pay a lot for housing. So the cost of housing goes up and up and up.
One of the challenges, there is a rent control. When you buy the property, if there are tenants transfer with the property, whatever the rent they paid, you increase only a very little amount every year, like a percentage, 2%, 3%, not like the market value. So that sometimes it won't even cover your mortgage.
The Supreme Court is going to release a ruling in the Grants Pass, Oregon versus Johnson case. And what this could do is make it legal for communities to make homelessness illegal.
The other thing that happens is people don't like stuff getting built in their neighborhood. And then when you try to come in and build housing for poor people or for working class people, then people really don't want it built. And oftentimes it's based on a fear of what poor people are. It can sometimes be race. They never say that. They always say, oh, we want to save the trees, we want to preserve green space. So people will say, yeah, I support affordable housing. Yeah, I want to build houses for poor people, just not in my backyard. And that attitude is the biggest barrier to stuff getting built.
I think everyone agrees that there's an issue. I think where there's a lot of disagreement is on how we go about fixing that.
It has never been a priority of the government to provide more affordable housing.
I would love to see an expansion of the housing voucher program, as well as an expansion of their existing affordable housing initiatives. And a large part of it comes down to fully funding the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
We try to fight for as much federal funding as possible for Section 8 housing vouchers that will allow people more market power when they're going out trying to rent.
We cannot make these projects work just based on the rents that we charge, because the rents are not enough. So we need government money to help.
At the federal level, we have greater fiscal capacity, and so we can put money into the Home Act and into other federal laws that allow money to travel down to the state and local level. But I think we need to see the different levels of government working together, and we need to see some dynamic federalism.
Once people are housed, people do better, and then the neighborhoods do better, the kids do better. You start to put in parks, you start to put in stores. In a lot of the neighborhoods which I wouldn't go to when I was growing up in DC, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, are now really thriving.
In a lot of states, renters constitute like 50% of the market. So we got to make sure that we're investing in renters as much as we're investing in homeowners.
When you rent a property, you just tell yourself what if that is me renting that property? Am I okay to live with this kind of house? It's not just to earn money only. every facility has to be in a living condition.
Fair housing is something that's fundamental for people's ability to lead a decent life and for their kids to get a good education.
You can't have a functioning society if people don't have a place to live.
This issue is one of the biggest in the country, and it requires the action and support from both the government and different organizations. There are millions not knowing when they're going to have a roof over their head, or whether they will be able to pay the rent this day, week, month, or year. No one should be living with such stress. No one should be living in limbo.